Hello everyone, it is Evan here from the Trade Risk, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the latest TC2000 release, which is all centered around their PCF syntax. Now this one especially hits home for me. As regular listeners know, I've been using the platform, building things for the platform for 10 or so years now for myself, for other traders, and anything that can enhance the life and the ecosystem of PCF syntax is something I am very excited about and support. So in this release, we've got things now like functions, we have parameters, we have comments, we have tags, we have highlightable syntax to show you the pre-built options that you have available. This is all really good news for builders in the platform like myself, like Trade Risk, where currently we are overhauling our entire catalog of scans and indicators on our website to use this new sort of functionality, the new programming layout here in TC2000 to make them more powerful, to make our products more powerful for everyday users and traders like yourself. Because now, through parameters, through exposing values that you can easily manipulate without touching code, will make your life easier as well. So there's lots of cool things. I'm very excited for it. We're gonna kick things off right now. Stick around. I should say though, before we jump into the lesson, this is going to be a bit advanced, especially if you've never looked at PCF before. If you've never worked with formulas, this is going to feel very intimidating. I still encourage you to watch the video to understand kind of how you can interact and kind of read code more easily going forward. But constructing these from scratch, if this is your first introduction to PCF, check out some of the other videos we have on our channel, because that's going to get you introduced into the syntax. This is going to go right into the deep end very quick. So a little bit of warning there. Let's get into it. All right, so I've got TC2000 open now, and I figure the best way to demonstrate all of the new updates is to simply just build something from scratch. We're going to kind of wing it here and create a scan and show you sort of the new keystrokes and options functionality that you now have available to you. So if you follow my mouse up here to the top left, we're going to click on the new button and we're going to go down to condition PCF formula. And so this is all kind of the same traditional way on how you would create a PCF formula now. And the new update is this little hamburger icon down here. If you click on that, we're going to click on this add new function. This is a new piece to the TC2000 software. So I'm going to click add new function, and we have a new window which we're going to work off of now. And you can see first off, the header is add function, function name, and then we've got these green text and we have these slashes here, and this is all new. So anytime you see green font here, this green text, that is called a comment. And that is something that does not impact the code whatsoever. This is in every single programming language out there. There is a way for developers, programmers to document their code. And it is just to make things more readable and to give meaning to complicated code. So we're going to start off here with the first slash, and I'm going to show you how to create that. So basically, if you were to just delete that and you were to type on your keyboard slash, you're going to auto-populate these two tags here. One is called a DESC, that's description tag, and the other one is quite legitimately called a tag. So description, this is just simply the meaning of what you're doing, right? This is all for organization purposes. So this is a demonstration scan we are about to build, right? We can put that in there. This will come into play. You'll see where this populates. This is, again, all to make your life easier. Tags are pretty cool. So tags are new as well. And this is how you can sort of document and keep track of the things you have in your platform. So I have hundreds of different formulas built in my platform in TC2000. When I go to look in my library, it's chaotic and it's a nightmare to find things organizationally. Now you can tag things with particular names. I'm going to just go crazy here and type zebra. It has no clear meaning, but I want to show you why that's important. We have a formula error right now because our formula doesn't actually do anything, so I'm just going to put that in there. I'm going to click the hamburger icon. I'm going to click Save Formula, and I'm going to say Demo PCF Scan, which I probably have like 100 things named that already, but I'm going to click OK. And actually, I'm going to cancel out. I already saved it. Cancel out. I'm going to go to my easy scan here, and I already figured out what I named it, but I do remember I used the word zebra. And if I type in zebra, you can see here is actually what I truly called it, which was Demo PCF Scan. And then in this light gray text here, you see the word zebra. That is a tag. So because I tagged my formula with zebra, that is a quick way I can call it up. So in the future, if you ever have downloaded anything from TradeRisk's website of our custom scans, you're always going to be able to type in the word TradeRisk, and you're going to be able to see all of the products and things that we have built ourselves. That's one of the things we're working on right now. So that's super exciting. Let's go back to Zebra. Let's click on this Zebra. Let's click Edit. And here we are. So before we go building out more of this function, I do want to just say that you can use the double slash, so slash slash forward slashes, two of them, to just write any type of arbitrary sort of comments or descriptions that you want. So when you do the double slash, this is a free for all text comment. Okay. And so this does not impact code. This is green text, so you know that means this is for human readable information. And so you can use this to essentially describe or document anything you want throughout your formulas now, which is very handy. So that's the double slash. The triple slash is what opens up just the auto populate for description and tag at the top of functions. Okay, so now that we have all of our bases covered on documentation, let's write a parameter. Let's create a parameter. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write it all out, and then I'm going to kind of show you what it actually means. So I'm going to use the new reserved word, which is param, P-A-R-A-M, followed by a space and a pound sign. And this is how you define or reserve the word for your parameter. I'm going to call this volume threshold, and I'm going to give it a value of 300,000. Okay. So what I've done here is I've defined a parameter called volume threshold, and I've given it a initial value of 300,000. And so I can now use this parameter throughout my function, throughout different functions, and just use the word instead of typing in this number over and over again. And this is helpful now where, let's say I'm using the number 300,000 in 4 or 5 different places. Instead of going in there every single time and having to update these numbers, I can just go to one place right at the top of my function, update it here, and it will then propagate to all of the places we used it. I'm going to show you how that's helpful in a little bit greater detail. As always, you always want to kind of, double slash, define what the heck this thing is. This will be used to determine our average volume daily threshold value. Okay, you can be as descriptive or nondescript as you'd like. Again, comments are optional. They just make your life easier. So we've got our first parameter defined. We're going to do one more. We're going to use the pound sign. We're going to say volume look back, and we're going to say 21. And we're going to say this is the look back. This is the look back we will use for our volume calculation. Okay, so we've got 2 parameters defined. Let's show you how to use them. I'm actually going to highlight this, and I'm going to copy this text because I'm going to reuse this in just a second here. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go down to the bottom of my screen. I'm going to delete this close greater than 100. I'm going to go back to this hamburger in the bottom right, and all of these, so we saw this briefly at the beginning of this video, but these are all new options you have available when you're building out functions. And what we want to do right now is do a add new function. We're actually going to create a second function here. Okay, so we're going to go down the rabbit hole, and when you create a new function, again, you're always going to get the description and tag populated at the top. So this is a new function. So for this description and this purpose of this function is, the purpose of this function is to calculate average daily volume and make sure it meets a user defined threshold. Okay. The tag, let's just use volume here. And again, you can always say, you know, give this function a name. Let's just call this average volume. Okay. Or let's call this minimum average volume. Okay, and we're gonna reuse the two parameters. So I copied those two parameters. So I'm just gonna copy what we already created in this big function. I'll show you why and why we're sort of doing all of this. So now that we have our description, our tag, we've got two parameters. I'm gonna show you how to then compute average volume. So we're going to use AVG, and immediately you can see this is something new in this release of TC2000. You can see that it's populated all of these options that we have available to us. You can see all of this F average C, average O, right? And you can click on all of these now. And this is telling you, this is a description right here. And it's telling you if you want to use F average V, this is a front weighted moving average of volume. And you can see that it accepts a period parameter and an optional offset parameter. And I think this is really neat, especially if you're not comfortable and you're not aware of all of the things that you have pre-built for you in TC2000. You can now look through your options and you can say, oh, actually, you know what? I wanted this one. Here's how I use it. Here's what it is. That's how it's helpful for you. So in this case, we are going to do an average volume built-in function, and we are going to, again, all these functions were already built in, it's just that you can see them now, and we're going to use our average volume parameter for the volume look back. Okay, and we're going to say that it needs to be greater than our volume threshold. So here's our function. It's average volume using the number 21, and it needs to be greater than the volume threshold, which is 300,000. In English, 21-day average volume needs to be greater than 300,000 shares. That's what we want to see in this formula. It seems like a lot of work right now, and it is, but I'll show you why it starts to make sense. As soon as I click OK here, notice now we have a function down here, which is called min average volume. That's exactly what we just created, and that's what we named it. So what we can say is, again, with the auto completion here, as soon as we typed #min, it says, oh, do you want to use this minimum average volume? Here's what the defaults are. It uses it has a volume threshold parameter of 300K, volume look back 21. The purpose of this function is to calculate average daily volume and make sure it meets a user defined threshold. That should sound familiar because that's everything we just typed in. Yes, in fact, that is what I want to use. So I am going to then double click here, and voila, we have a minimum average volume sub-function sort of called here. The reason this is neat now is because we can start to create some pretty powerful functions that are, they're not nested, but they are calling stacks of one another. It is creating modular, it's kind of modular programming at its finest, where you're getting these very specific set of functions that do a special defined purpose, and then you can reuse them and call them in different places. Let's continue on here. We're going to start to pick up the speed a little bit. Let's say, actually, to change things up, instead of writing another function, because I think that was the high level sort of takeaways, and not to bore you through me typing out a bunch of other text, let's import something I've already created. Let's show you how to add a function from a library. So what I'm going to do is go to the hamburger down here again, and instead of add new function, I'm going to say add function from library. And I started again writing and updating trade risks library. So if I go to trade risk, I can see here's all of the functions I've already created. And let's just use this first one here. This is a bullish trend filter. So I'm going to click on this one. I can see here is the bullish trend filter that I've already created. I've put the description, tags, and some default values and wrote the code. I'm going to click OK. And what you'll see is the function is already at the bottom here. So it says bullish trend filter. So if I want to use that now, all of that code I've already wrote. So I'm going to use the and I am then going to do the pound and say, I'm going to use this bullish trend filter function I just added. And here's what it does. This function created by the trade risk will make sure stocks are in established uptrends based on a user-defined moving average and trend strength variable. You can see that the default moving average is the 50 and the days rising or the trend strength value is 10. So as soon as I put this in, I have now called in this trend filter that has already been created. Now, a couple of things to note here is the default values were 50 and 10. If I want to change those values, I can just put a parenthesis here and say, you know what? I want this to be a 100-day moving average, and I want the trend strength to be 50. And so now what this is going to do is pass in the value 150. And if I go into this function, the value 150 now become the parameters defined as trend MA and days rising. They are going to take on the values of 150 because the user, me, has decided when I want to use this trend filter in this demo PCF scan, I want the values to be 150, not the default value, which is 50 and 10. Okay. I know it gets a little bit complicated here, especially if you're not familiar with PCF, but this is the way you can pass new values, override values, or assign new parameter values at the time of a function call. Okay. A couple of other things to note is you see me using this edit button down here, and this edit button automatically launches the function that you're calling or that you've added. And so this is an easy way to, again, see what's going on. All of the hover over values as well should be helpful because it is telling you exactly what, if you've never seen true in row, what this built-in TC2000 function does. Okay. So this demo PCF scan, we started with a minimum average volume function that we built. We defined these parameters. We then called in something I had already created. And you know what? Let's just go the whole sort of trifecta here. Let's just add some straight up code to this demo PCF scan in this formula. And we can say, let's just say that the close today needs to be greater than the close 20 days ago times 5%. Okay. So what is this saying? This is saying that, hey, the close today needs to be 5% higher than it was 20 days ago, aka the stock needs to be up 5% over the last 20 days. That's what this last piece says. And at this point, let's just copy to, let's put this in a new watch list. And here we go. We've got 170 stocks that meet our criteria. The criteria is basically, hey, it's got to trade at least 300,000 shares of average daily volume. The trend needs to be rising in the 100-day over, what did we say? 100-day over 50 days. And then the stock has to be up 5% over the last 20 days. So these are all the stocks that meet this criteria. One thing you would note now is this last piece we wrote, again, isn't that friendly. If you were to just open it up, if I just handed you this code, you'd have to sit there and stare at it for a second to just say, okay, what is Evan trying to do with this? So again, this is where the parameters can come in handy, and you can say parameter, and you could say the percent rise, and you know, this could be a I guess I'll use a decimal like that, but you could say something like this. You could replace that percentage 1.05 that was just randomly there, and you could say the percentage has to be up 10%. You could also write this as 10 and restructure the function, but I think you understand the gist. This automatically cleans things up. Again, you could say look back equals 20, right? And then you could replace this 20 in here with the parameter look back. And so now your bottom code down here is a little clearer, although it's still a little confusing, but at least it helps you. If you ever want to change anything, you can just update this here. All right. A couple of things we didn't talk about is there are parameters. There are also constants. Okay, and you do a constant like this, and you could say price equals 5. A constant is something that does not change. It is not meant to change. It's not something you can override. It is something that is kind of permanently a specific value. The reason you use constants, again, is to clean up code. Instead of having random arbitrary numbers inside of formulas, you could use constants, and you could essentially be very descriptive in what that formula actually does. All right. So we talked about comments, highlighting, parameters, functions, talked about the hover over benefits now of hovering over built-in functions as a little tooltip. Last couple of things is this button right here. So this button is going to flatten everything, and it's going to show you all of the, basically the interpretation that TC2000 is taking on your code. And you can also edit things in a standalone window. You can do that by, let's see, right here. Okay, so there it is. The little hamburger on the bottom, edit in standalone window. You can get a nice big window to code in, something I very much appreciate as well. When you're creating complex formulas, you can essentially get a nice big window to write in, not just a tiny window like we have here. And you also saw the little magnifying glass. You can do searches in here. So I could search for volume, and you can see it's a little kind of find, classic kind of Control F find magnifying glass as well. What else did we not talk about? New offset function. So I've already probably confused a lot of people already, so let's keep this pretty straightforward. If I use the keyword offset, this is a new built-in function. Let's just go something super simple. The closing value, comma, 5 is greater than 10. Okay, so basically here, this is a very trivial example that no one would actually do, but you could say, for instance, if you originally had just a close is greater than 10, if you really had a complex set of calculations of formulas all strung together, and you needed to offset the whole set of formulas you had, let's say there were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, instead of going in and doing the .1, .2, whatever you're offsetting, you could just wrap the whole expression in this offset function, and it would offset everything in these parentheses by a value that you choose. A little more into the weeds, something that is valuable for sort of the power users of PCF syntax. So I think that's everything. The value of all of this, as it may seem overwhelming at first, is to, in fact, streamline and kind of clean up your code. Again, as we mentioned at the top of the show, for someone like us who has a big catalog of downloads for TC2000, we're going to do this heavy lifting for you. We are going to organize and write this code in a crisp, clean, efficient manner that is well documented. So when you use some of our products, you will be able to see everything that we're talking about in readable language. You'll be able to adjust parameters where it's appropriate, and it'll make your life easier. When you're constructing them, you are writing more code than you did in the past. I should have said at the top of the video, all of your old PCFs still work exactly as they were, so to speak. So there's no changes. You don't have to start building everything in this new sort of design paradigm, but it is all to make your life easier and more helpful. So I think that is everything. If you have questions, feel free to reach out, leave a comment below. We're also thinking about doing something more community driven to help kind of get people together and talk about this in more detail. I'm sure there's gonna be lots of questions, but for the developers and hopefully for the users, you do see some of the benefit here of how you can start to clean up your code, organize things, and make adjustments to complex formulas. So that is it, I think, for this video. We didn't touch absolutely everything, but this is a good gist. Lots to digest, especially if this is not your typical wheelhouse of PCF. We are here to help and support you. So again, reach out to us, check out the things we have built on the trade risk. We're going to be updating everything over the coming weeks. It's going to take us some time, and hopefully this was helpful. Thanks so much for tuning in. Take care.